Hi everyone, I am Laxmi Prasanna, Department of Computer Science and Engineering, working as Assistant Professor in Marri Reddy Institute of Technology and Management. Today my topic is Structure and Union in C. So what is mean by structure and union in C? Structure means what? A structure is a user defined data type. Before going to this, what is mean by array? So array is a collection of different or similar data type. N number of elements are called as an array. In structure, we have to use the collection of different types of data elements are like integer, float, double, character. A structure is a user defined data type. The user will create a data type is nothing but a structure. So structure, in that we have to take more number of data types are like integer, float, double and character. Suppose for example I am taking the student record. Student record. So in that student name, roll number and marks and here name. So here student number is integer type, roll number is also integer type, and name is also character, and marks it will be provided as grade or it will as a float type. So it is a one record. So it is called as a one record. So in that we will take more number of different types of data types are arranged in this record. So here the structure in that structure is also have to take different types of data types. N number of data elements can store in a structure. So in structures we can store the n number of elements of different data type. So a structure, we can most important points are defining a structure and declare a structure variable and initialize a structure members and elements and access the structure member. So what is mean by define a structure? How to define a structure? So by using the keyword is called as an struct. So how to define a structure? So by using the keyword is called as an struct. The syntax of this is called as struct identify tag name or name of the particular structure. So here struct identify a tag name, and we are using the different types of data elements, element 1, element 2 and n number of elements. N number of data types we are taking in a structure. So n number of elements will be taken in this structure. So after creating the structure, mandatory you have to give the semicolon. So the students mandatory you have to follow this syntax, most important. Struct identify or tag name, the struct name and data type, element 1, element 2 and element n, and closing the brace and mandatory you have to give the semicolon. So in that we will create a one data type. So after this we will create a one data type here. So struct by using the keyword is called as an struct, and here I am taking one example employee. Suppose for example struct employee. So employee related elements are what here? So employee number, employee name and salary. So employee number is a integer data type and employee name is a character data type and salary is the float. So here I am mentioning the e name is the size is 20 and struct employee. The identifier tag name is employee, and I am using the different data types are integer, character and float, salary. After this I am closing the brace and semicolon. So integer it will takes the 2 bytes of data, and character it will take the 1 byte of data, and float it will take the 4 bytes of data. So in character I am mentioning the e name is 20, the size is 20. So in that so 20 bytes of data, 20 plus 2 plus 4 bytes, total how much amount of data will be created? One structure is 26 bytes of data. 26 bytes of data, it will create an employee. So here in memory, it will create the employee data type. It will create 26 bytes of data will be created one structure. So 26 bytes of data, it is related to two bytes is integer, and again 1 byte 20 bytes is character, and 1 byte 4 bytes is related to the salary. In structure, it will take the different manner. It will take different data types. It will take the data stored in a memory. The complete 26 bytes of data, it will store in individual data type is like integer, character and float. The memory, it will be sharing as that particular memory. The adding of total data types can be used in a memory. So here struct employee, it will created as a memory as like employee, and adding of the both three data types are 26 bytes of data. Individually, it will allocate the memory in a structure. The most important point is memory allocation. In structure, the memory, it will be stored as individually, and we have to use the different data types are like integer, character, float, double, and we will take long double. So in that we will take different data types in a structure. So it is a defining the structure. So how to declaring a structure variable? So the syntax of the structure is struct and identify the variables are variable 1, variable 2 and variable 3. So we have two methods are there. So in that we will create the struct variable. We have to use two methods, method 1 and method 2. In method 1 is have to mention like this struct employee. So in that have to take the data type is employee 1, and data type 2 is employee 2, and data type 3 is employee 3, and the semicolon. So after this, you have to take the variable. So after closing the structure, so creating the structure, in that also you have to take the different variables, variable 1, variable 2 and variable 3 up to variable n. So in method 2, have to take the main function. So in that you have to create this manner, either have to take otherwise this manner. So struct employee E1, struct employee E1, E2, E3 up to so on en. So in array, you will take the different data types is like array of size a of 5 is equals to curly braces. You will mention the different elements here. But in structure, first of all you have to create the data type, then only you will create the variable. So here you have to create the data type is what? Employee. So you will create the data type is employee. Struct keyword is mandatory. Struct employee and E1. Suppose variable 1 is E1. Suppose I will create the employee variable is E1. So struct employee E1. It will created the data type employee and the data type variable is E1. So either this manner, and we have to use the method 1 or method 2. So in main function also you will create the variable, otherwise you have to close the struct variable is like this manner. Also you have to create or declaring the structure variable. The user want more number of elements. Suppose in your class 60 members of the students are there, so you have to record the 60 member students. So you have to take the structure manner. So like this E1, E2, E3 up to E60. So you have to create the variables like this manner. So either like this manner. So you have to use two methods, method 1 and method 2. So individually it will create the memory. Suppose E1 means individually the data type is integer, suppose character and float. So employee, even employee, suppose student number and student name and student particular grade. So individually, so even is allocated 26 bytes of data, and again E2 is allocated 26 bytes of data, and again E3 is allocated 26 bytes of data. So individually one record will be created in a memory. So here even struct employee, even is nothing but a variable. The syntax of the declaring structure variable is struct, identify the tag name is employee, and variable are even, E2, E3 up to n number of elements. So how to initialize a structure elements? So how to initialize a structure elements? So elements initialization is also most important. So variable creation. So in array or something, int a is equals to 10. Suppose for example, you have to initialize like this. Any integer variable or character or float, it will take. In structure also have to create the variable is like this manner. Struct employee and int employee number, employee name, float salary. How to initialize the variable? Suppose employee number, like this manner only you have to initialize the variable. Suppose employee number is 10 and e name is, suppose for example Prasanna, and my salary is something something xyz or 100 something. So here float salary, so it will take the this manner only memory, it will created as like this: employee number, employee name, and the salary. So you will initialize the values are like this manner. So array, in that array is also same. If phi is equals to something curly braces, you have to mention the elements 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, you have to give in our array. In struct also, in structure also, struct employee, even is nothing but what? Even is a variable even. So variable is equals to, so here you have to mention the integer, character, float, employee number. This manner only you have to initialize the variables or data types. So 10 and name and the salary. The initialization of the structure element is like this: struct employee even. So in memory it will created as like this manner. So integer and character and float. So here integer, it will take how much amount of data? 10. And suppose xyz, and the salary is 10,000 something, it will store like this. So how much amount of memory it will store? 26 bytes of memory it will store in a memory. So here initialization of the structure element. And how to accessing the structure members in a C. So using the member access operator, dot operator, we can access the members of structure variables. Most important point, have to use the dot operator. To use this, we can access the member of structure variable. Struct variable dot member function. Suppose here I am creating the data type is struct employee and the variable is even. So how to retrieve the elements and how to access the member functions in a structure? So have to create the variable is even, and even dot employee number, and e2 dot, suppose even dot employee name, and even dot employee salary. So suppose the employee number is 10 and the name and salary is like that, it will print it. So even dot operator is mainly used for creating or accessing the structure member in C. So I have taken one example program for this. So same struct employee. So int employee number and character employee name and the float salary, and have to create the structure here. So have to create the structure and main function. So employee, so I have to create the variable is what, E. So struct employee E is equals to 101 and Prasanna. I am taking some example here, 20,000, and here printing the size of employee. The size of the structure variable is 26 bytes. I already told integer is 2 bytes of data and character is 1 byte. 1 byte into, I am giving the size is 20 and the float salary 4 bytes of data. Total is 26 bytes of data can be stored in a memory. So you have to create the employee variable is E, employee in that created as like this. So employee E is one record. So 101, Prasanna and 20,000. The size of the employee structure, the size of the employee is how much? 26 bytes can be printed. 26 bytes can be printed. Size of variable means size of the particular variable. Size of representation, if you have to mention the size of responsibility is, it will be provided the variable size. So here employee details. So here I am giving the employee number and employee name and employee salary. So the mandatory you have to take the integer means percentile D and character name is percentile S, float salary is percentile F. And how to accessing the elements, how to accessing the element by using the which operator, dot operator, E dot employee number, E dot employee name and E dot salary, E salary. So E dot salary. So employee number. So this manner only have to print the employee details. Order mandatory, you have to follow this only. So you have to, suppose for example character E name means you have to take it as here. So mandatory I have to employee number. So mandatory you have to give the 101 here. So how to retrieve the data, how to access the members in a particular structure is E dot employee number, E dot employee name and E dot salary. So the employee details are 101, Prasanna and 20,000. And already I am giving here 101 and these elements can be provided the output. So main important point is in structure. So individually we can access the data elements. So and by using the dot operator have to retrieve the elements in a structure. So you have to take the another example also, student also. So student here, student number, student name and grade. So float grade, grade is a marks grade. So I have to mention here student roll number is suppose 101 and student name XYZ and the grade is A grade, B grade, something like that. You have to write the different types of examples. In structure, the data types can be stored in individually. The most important point, the memory allocation, the in a structure, it can store the data types are individually. And by using the example program for functions with structured result. So using the function is also you have to create the structure, struct employee, suppose employee ID and character name and float salary, and have to create the function is called as an print employee, struct employee. Employee variable is created like this, have to create the employee ID, employee name and employee salary, and directly it can be moved here void employee. So the details will be printed and after this it will be printed as like that. So employee ID is suppose for example I am taking 3 here and particular name and the salary of this. So in function mandatory you have to create the function name and you have to create the struct variable is what, struct employee E, and it is also called as a structured resultant values. And union in C. In structure is same as like a union is also same. A union is also a user defined data type. Arrays are used to store to similar data type in a number of elements, and union is also we can store the n number of elements of different data type. A union is also a collection of different types of data elements like integer, float, double and character. The main difference between the structure and union is memory allocation. In structure, we have to store the data is individually. The memory management, the main difference of this is memory allocation. In structure, the data can be stored in individually, but in union we have to take the highest amount of the data, and that can be shared to the different data types. That can be shared to different data type is called as an union. So union is also to define a union and declare a union variables and initialize a union members or elements and access the union members. So most important, defining a union and declare a union variable and initialize a union members and elements. In structure, we have to use the struct employee and int suppose employee number and character employee name I'm giving the size is 20 and float salary here, float salary, and after this mandatory have to give the semicolon. In union have to use the keyword is called as an union, and employee same here also int employee number and character employee name and giving the size, and here float salary and close semicolon. What is the difference between these two are the keyword is union, and here we have to use adding of the data types is 26 bytes of data. But here most important point is memory allocation. In union is also 26 bytes of data, but here integer it will take the 2 bytes of data, and here 20 bytes of data, and here 4 bytes of data. But it will take union only highest amount of the data type it will take in a union. The highest amount of the data type is 20 bytes of data can be stored, can be shared to the different data types is called as an union. The 20 bytes of data can be shared to the different data type. Highest amount of data type can be taking in a union. The memory allocation, the 20 bytes can be shared to the different data type. So after completion of one data type, then only it can move to the other data type. But in a structure, individually it will take the different types of data types. But in a union, after completion of one byte of data, then it can be moved to the other data type. The memory allocation is most important for your structure and union. So the example program for union is union employee and int employee number, and same example employee name is 20 bytes and salary. So have to create the employee is created and the variable is employee, and here also I am taking the example is employee number and employee name and salary. So individually have to here first one employee number is created, then after it we can move to the employee name, then after it will be created to the salary. So it the hide the previous data. So it will enter the 10 bytes of data. It will name is it will be remove, and again the name will be created, and again it will be removed, and it will be store the 30,000. Suppose highest amount of data it will be taken. The remaining one is taking as an garbage value. Remaining data types it will be taken as a garbage, printed as garbage value. Only highest amount of the data type it will be created as the, it will be printed as the result. So here also we have to use the member access operator is called as an dot operator. So here also you have to use the member access operator is called as the dot operator. Same E dot employee number, E dot employee name, and E dot salary. So in union and structure, the most important point is memory allocation. So remaining elements, remaining data types are created as a garbage value, and the highest amount of the data it will be printed as the result. The most important point, the difference between the union and structure and union is memory allocation, memory management or memory allocation. In structure, it will store the data as a complete data type data. 26 bytes of data can be used in a structure, but in a union the highest amount of the data type is 20 bytes. It can be shared to the different data types is called as an union. In structure, used as the keyword is called as an struct. In union, use the keyword is called as an union. In structure is also how to access the member access operator is called as an dot operator, and in union is also you have to use the operator is called as an dot operator. The main important point, the students, the difference between the structure and union, have to use the memory allocation. The most important is memory allocation. So in union, the highest amount of data type it can be taken in a union. Nowadays we are using the union method only. In previous days, the structure it will be taken as a memory management. So individually it can taken as the 26 bytes of data, but in union the large amount of data can be stored into the different data types is called as an union. The most important point is structure and union. Thank you everyone.